I'm here in Huxley's in Berlin, and I'm waiting for Ritenour. I'm going to have a chat with him. He's on tour with Dave Grusin, and he's going to be on stage in a few minutes, but I catch him before that and have a little chat with him. How did he even actually started with music?
Long time ago, when I was a little kid. I was 8 years old when I took up the guitar, but even before that I was ukulele, and before that it was a broomstick handle with a rubber band stretched with two nails, and so ever since I was 4 or something, and there was just a lot of music in the house. My dad was an amateur piano player, but probably could have been a pro, and he loved music. My mom loved music, and so and I just fell in love with the strings and the guitar, and that was it. And I was a geek ever since I was a kid.
Is that being a geek when you love music?
When you're that young, yeah, and you dedicate. Because by the time I was 12 or 13, I had already decided I wanted to try to be a professional, and I was, in the summertime I was putting in 10 hours a day easy. Yeah, which is what you have to do.
That's definitely being in a geek.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wasn't the most social kid, but back in those days too, there was a lot of work for musicians. So even as a young teenager, I was playing parties every weekend, playing with bands and playing what they call casuals, weddings and bar mitzvahs and different kinds of events, and playing with the college bands. And I got a very young start.
Who was your biggest influence that you actually continued with music?
Well, I had incredible teachers, and I had one teacher in particular that was recommended to me by the great jazz guitarist Barney Kessel. And this teacher, his name was Duke Miller. I got him when I was 12, and he was like a sensei, just really taught me about music, about the bigger picture of music, about the music business, certainly about the guitar, and so he was kind of my guiding light. But then also it was a great period for the guitar. The guitar was most popular then in the late 60s, early 70s, because Hendrix was there, Jeff Beck was there, Clapton, Wes Montgomery, Jim Hall, Joe Pass, Tal Farlow, B.B. King. There was a legend in every field: Segovia in the classical, Sabicas in the flamenco, Chet Atkins in the country. Everywhere you turn, there was like a heavyweight guitar player. So I was influenced by anybody that could play the guitar good.
Well, over like the past, let's say, past 40 years, right? What do you believe it was like the most significant changes in the music industry?
Ooh. Well, it's actually always been changing. It is technologically it's changed from the from the radio to the vinyl to the CD to the what we have today, which is in the air. There's different ways to reach the audience. Obviously with YouTube and the internet and it's you can get your music out there, and everything is on film. Everything. And I mean, we play a concert like here. It'll be on YouTube before we leave the stage.
You actually played with quite a lot of also other famous musicians. Is there any moment that you say, well, that's something that I really love to remember, and it just made a huge change in your life or something?
You mean as far as inspiration from other musicians, or just events in my life, or?
Well, yes, but also with the ones that you actually performed together with.
Oh. Well, I started off my career first as a studio musician in Los Angeles. So I played on thousands of records, and that was like being in school for me in a way. And, to get to work with Quincy Jones and Pink Floyd and Steely Dan and my buddy Dave Grusin, who was the top film scorer at the time in LA, and doing all these great movies with 100-piece orchestras and stuff. That was being in school, and there were some very inspirational records to play on, and I got to record with B.B. King and with other great guitar players, with George Benson and just, tons of people. And I got to work with great producers. So I got to work with a lot of producers from the Motown era. Got to work with Quincy, of course, and Ezrin, who produced Pink Floyd, and just different great producers. And then I grew up with other great musicians, David Foster was a studio musician, Ray Parker Jr., all the Toto guys, my buddy Steve Lukather, you know, a lot of young guys that were studio guys became artists too.
You just mentioned Dave. Obviously, you guys have a concert today. I'm really excited about that. And how is it to play? You guys playing together for like, I think like about 40 years, right? Or like, more or less. Yeah. How is that, you know?
Well, I met Dave Grusin when I was 19. I was playing with Sergio Mendes already in Brazil 66, and Sergio had a party at his house in LA, and I went there, and the great Brazilian composer Antonio Carlos Jobim was there, Dave Grusin was there, Jerry Mulligan, the great saxophone player, was there. So it was like, for me being 19 and meeting all these guys, it was like, wow, you know? And Dave and I, he started using me on my films. We started playing together at this funky club that's still there in LA, Baked Potato, great club. And then he started, you know, working on my records and producing my records, and later we all joined GRP Records together, and it's just been a lifetime of friendship and love and partnership.
That is very kind words. I think he will really appreciate that. And just one more last question, because I know you need to go on stage. We don't want you to be late. What do you think? What can your fans expect from you today? Even
though I have stylistically, I have a strong style that some people would, you know, easily recognize and say it's like Ritenour. But at the same time, I've loved variety. It's just because of the way I grew up, listening to rock and jazz and blues and classical, and so in my show, you'll see some of that variety. You know, so
they can be very excited about that. And thank you so much for talking to me today and for your short time that you give me. Okay. And next time we will talk again.